The man who used to be my father gave my son a rock inside an iPhone box for his birthday and said, "Only good boys get toys." Everyone laughed, but 30 minutes later there was silence when "Go on, open it, buddy." Dad's voice rang out with exaggerated cheer as he slid the white Apple box across the table toward my son, Max. The whole living room fell quiet, eyes locked on the box like it held something magical. Max was beaming, his chubby fingers trembling slightly as he peeled back the wrapping paper. "Is it really an iPhone?" he whispered, his 9-year-old voice tight with awe. "Open it and see," Dad said, smirking at me over his coffee mug. "I should have known. I should have known." Max lifted the lid. His smile froze. Inside the pristine white iPhone box was a jagged rock. Just a rock. A stupid, dirty rock that looked like it had been yanked from the edge of someone's driveway. Max blinked at it, clearly confused. "Is this a joke?" Dad leaned back in his chair, laughing loud enough to fill the room. "Well," he said, taking a sip of coffee like a man who'd just nailed the punchline of a great joke. "Only good boys get toys. Isn't that right, Max?" There was a beat of stunned silence. Then the room erupted with laughter. My sister cackled so hard she had to dab her eyes with a napkin. My brother-in-law snorted into his drink. Even my own mother shook her head and chuckled. I didn't laugh. Max didn't either. He was still staring at the rock, and slowly, I saw it register. The heat in his cheeks, the way his shoulders sank. He shoved the box away, not saying a word. Just bit his lip and looked at me. I recognized the look in his eyes. It was the same one I used to wear when I was his age. The same look I wore when Dad used to do this exact same thing to me. "Oh, come on." Dad waved a hand, pretending to soften. "It's just a bit of fun. Lighten up." "Yeah, lighten up," my sister chimed in, nudging Max's shoulder with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "It's not like it's your real present." My jaw clenched, because I knew. There wasn't a real present. This was it. The grand gesture. A rock in an iPhone box and a punchline at a kid's expense. "Wow," I said quietly. "You really outdid yourself this time." Dad shrugged, like this was all perfectly normal. "Maybe next year he'll learn some respect. Then we'll see about the iPhone, huh?" That was it. That was the moment something shifted in me. I glanced at Max again, his head down, eyes wet but refusing to cry, and I felt something boiling low in my chest. Something that had been building for years. No more. I looked around the room. At my smug father. At the relatives giggling behind their wine glasses. At the people who watched a kid get humiliated and thought it was entertainment. They didn't know what was coming. But they would. Oh, they definitely would. And 30 minutes later, they weren't laughing anymore. I wish I could say this was new. That my father humiliating a child, my child, was some strange anomaly. But no, this was vintage Dad. Same routine, different generation. You see, growing up, he never hit me. No. He was far too proud for that. His abuse wore a suit and tie. It came with sarcasm dressed up as fatherly wisdom, shame wrapped in tradition, and love that always came with a price tag. "You're not like your brother," he'd say when I brought home a B instead of an A. "He's sharp. Well, you try. That counts for something." I spent years trying to earn his approval. Got a scholarship. Took on 3 jobs. Built a company from scratch. And still, he called me lucky instead of smart. Decent instead of driven. Every Christmas, every birthday, every family gathering was a chance for him to remind me that no matter what I achieved, I was still the disappointment of the family. And when I had Max, that should have changed things. It didn't. My dad barely acknowledged him. Never remembered his birthday, never asked how he was doing in school. And when he did speak to him, it was always some backhanded remark. "Don't you think it's time to toughen him up?" he said once when Max cried over a scraped knee. "You coddle him too much." Coddle? I was raising my son not to become him, and that was apparently a crime. So when he handed Max a rock in an iPhone box and laughed in his face, something inside me snapped. "You know," I said, standing up slowly, "it's funny. Because you've spent your whole life convincing people you're the strong one. The patriarch. The backbone of this family. But really, all you've ever been is a coward in a cardigan." The laughter stopped. My mom's eyes widened. My sister choked on her wine. Dad leaned back in his chair, squinting at me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Watch your mouth." "No, you watch yours," I said, stepping forward. "You just humiliated my son in front of the entire family. And for what?" A laugh. A little moment of control to feel like a man again. "I was joking, for God's sake." You weren't joking. You were performing. Like always. You do this every time. You find someone weaker, someone younger, someone who trusts you, and you crush them with a smile on your face. Max was still quiet, his little hand gripping the side of his chair. I looked at him, then turned back to the room. You all saw it. Every single one of you. And you laughed. Silence. I smiled, but there was nothing kind in it. You want to know what's really funny? I actually brought him an iPhone. The real one. It's in the car. I wanted Dad to have his moment, so I waited. Gasps rippled through the room. That's right. I was going to let him hand it over. Thought maybe, just maybe, he'd finally act like a grandfather. I turned to my sister. But you laughed, Emily. You laughed like it was a comedy show. You, the therapist. You should know better. My brother-in-law shifted uncomfortably. He always stayed out of things, neutral like Switzerland. But tonight, the air was too thick even for him. My mom tried to cut in. Can we not do this now? It's Max's birthday. Exactly, I snapped. And you all ruined it. I walked out, not even grabbing my coat. Just headed to the car, pulled out the actual iPhone box, and walked back in. I handed it to Max. This is for you. From me. Because you are a good boy. And don't let anyone, tell you otherwise. He blinked up at me. Thanks, Dad. His voice cracked on the last word, and I nearly broke right there. Then I turned to the room. You had your show. Now it's my turn. I pulled out the envelope from my back pocket and dropped it on the table. What's this? Dad asked, eyeing it like it was a bomb. It's the updated power of attorney paperwork. You're not on it anymore. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the house you co-signed on but haven't paid a cent toward. The accounts you've been helping manage for Max's college fund. It's done. All of it. You can't just. I can. And I did. My sister's husband looked at her, confused. Wait, what accounts? Her face turned pale. I saw the flicker of panic bloom behind her eyes. Yeah, I said. Maybe someone should have told you. Guess who's been dipping into the family trust behind your back? Be quiet, Emily hissed. No, I said, calm and deadly. You be quiet. The room was no longer laughing, and I was just getting started. Dad's hand hovered over the envelope like it was radioactive. His jaw clenched, but he didn't open it. Because deep down he knew. He always knows when he's caught. You're making a mistake, he said through gritted teeth. This isn't how families solve problems. No, I replied, ice cold. This is how men solve problems when their family treats their child like garbage. I turned to Emily. Let's talk about that emergency withdrawal from Max's college fund. You told the bank you had my authorization. She froze. I needed it for Ellie's therapy. No, you needed it for your Bali yoga retreat. You posted the whole thing on Instagram, healing my inner child on the beach. Cute caption. Paid for by my actual child's education. Her husband shot up from the couch. Wait, you took money from Max's account. She tried to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. $2,200. Gone. You forged my signature and claimed it was approved. I have the bank report. The teller even remembered you. Said you smiled the whole time. You're overreacting, she barked, voice cracking. It's not like I drained it. You stole from my kid. Don't stand there and act like it was a misunderstanding. Now Mom tried to step in, eyes glistening with manufactured tears. This is getting out of hand. No, Mom. What's out of hand is the fact that Dad has been using Max's social security number to open credit lines since he was 5. The silence was deafening. Even Emily sat down. My mother looked at my father. What is he talking about? I dropped a manila folder on the table. 3 credit cards. All with small limits. All maxed. All opened under Max's name, with his SSN and your address. Dad's face went ghost white. You can't prove that. Already did. The bank was very helpful when they realized it was a minor's identity being used. You're going to get a nice letter soon. Might want to clear your schedule. I raised you, he said, low and shaky. And I trusted you. I snapped. But you used my son to protect your pathetic credit score. You played grandfather of the year, while financially strangling a 9-year-old. Mom sat down hard in her chair. You've gone too far. No, I said, voice like steel. You all did. Years of silent dinners where I was the butt of the joke. Years of being not as smart as Emily or not as charming as Dad. Years of paying for Christmas gifts you took credit for, covering tuition for a niece who called me boring behind my back, paying your property taxes just so you could go on cruises. I turned to everyone. And I did it. I did everything. Not because you deserved it, but because I hoped, just once, you'd see me. You'd look at Max and think, he's better than we were. But instead, you pulled him into the same toxic spiral I grew up in. Dad finally exploded. You selfish, bitter little man. You want to destroy this family because of a stupid rock in a box. I laughed. It wasn't pretty. It was feral. No, I'm destroying the illusion. This family was broken a long time ago. I'm just turning the lights on. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing now? Mom asked, already panicking. Sending a copy of this folder to the attorney I hired last week. Also CCing the fraud division of the bank. Oh, and Child Protective Services, just in case someone needs to ask why my kid's identity was being exploited. Emily shot up again. You're insane. I looked right at her. No, I'm just done. Max stood next to me now, the real iPhone in his hand, still unopened. He reached up and took my hand. Can we go, Dad? God, I almost broke. His voice was so calm, so trusting. I nodded. As we walked to the door, Dad's voice rang out, desperate now. If you walk out of here, don't come back. I stopped, turned around. You already made the choice. The second you laughed at my son. Then I looked at the others. Emily, her husband, my mother. I'm not your punching bag. I'm not your backup wallet. And I'm not your scapegoat. I'm his father. And that's the only title I care about. And we left. The door shut behind us with a dull thud. The silence inside that house? Probably still ringing. But out in the driveway, under the cold gray sky, my son looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. I'm glad you're my dad. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. The very next morning, I got a text from my sister. You went too far. Dad's furious. Mom hasn't stopped crying. I didn't reply. By noon, my inbox pinged. It was from the fraud department. The investigation was officially open. By 3 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Turner? This is Detective Amanda Ross with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to schedule a formal statement regarding the identity theft of your son. Boom. They thought I'd simmer down. They thought I'd let it slide. But no, this time I wasn't swallowing the pain. I was turning it into ammunition. Within 48 hours, I'd filed a police report and submitted every single document I had. The bank statements tied to Max's social security number. Screenshots of the forged withdrawal from his college fund. Video footage from the birthday party showing exactly what happened when my father humiliated him. They laughed at a child. They stole from him. And now? Now we were going to court. The family's silence lasted about a week. Then Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was frantic, her words tumbling over each other like she was trying to outrun the truth. Honey, please, let's just fix this internally. Family doesn't go to court over mistakes. Your father's not well. Emily's a mess. Just come over. Let's talk. I didn't even finish listening. That Sunday, I got a formal letter from a lawyer. My father's lawyer. They were threatening to countersue for defamation of character. The audacity almost made me laugh. You can't defame someone who just handed a rock to his grandson and told him he wasn't good enough. I called my own lawyer immediately. Let them try, she said. We have enough evidence to crush them in open court. Crush was an understatement. The trial was scheduled for mid-June. Civil court. Fraud. Identity theft. Misuse of minors' information. But I wasn't just after justice. I wanted the truth on public record. The first court day was packed. Emily looked like a ghost. Dad showed up in his best blazer, still trying to control the narrative with a forced calm. Mom wore sunglasses indoors. Classic drama. Their lawyer tried to paint it as a family misunderstanding. Mr. Turner, he said with a smile, don't you think this has gone too far? I leaned forward. My voice clear. Cold. Deadly. My son's name and future were used like currency by people who laughed in his face. You're right. It has gone too far. That's why I'm here. The judge nodded. Let's proceed. We did. And it was glorious. Day 2, my lawyer presented the financial evidence. Day 3, the banker who handled the forged withdrawal testified. Day 4, surveillance footage showed Emily entering the bank, signing my name, and smiling. She tried to claim I had verbal permission. I had audio recordings proving otherwise. She folded on the stand, tried to cry. The judge wasn't impressed. And then came Dad's moment. Under oath, they asked, did you open credit cards using your grandson's information? He hesitated. Then, I don't recall. Wrong answer. Because the bank had already confirmed his phone number was used during the verification calls. His signature matched. His address. And then I dropped the bombshell. A recorded voicemail he left me just 3 weeks earlier. It's just some cards, for God's sake. He's a kid. He's not going to use the credit. What's the big deal? The courtroom was silent. Even my mother looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. The final ruling? Emily was ordered to repay $2,200 to Max's college fund plus fines. My father was fined, placed under investigation for elder fraud on top of identity theft, and the judge recommended the case be forwarded to the DA. I was awarded $25,000 in damages. But more importantly, the court sealed Max's credit. He was safe, and the courtroom saw who my family really was. As we walked out of the courthouse, Emily chased me down the steps. "You've destroyed this family," she hissed. "Do you realize what you've done?" I turned to her. Calm. Still. Powerful. "No. You destroyed it. I just exposed the rubble." She didn't respond. Just stood there, blinking like a light about to go out. Max looked up at me. "Are we done, Dad?" I smiled. "Almost, but just one last thing." I took him to the Apple store that night. Let him pick out his own AirPods and a case. "It's not about the stuff," he whispered as we walked out. "I know," I said, putting my arm around him. "It's about respect. You called me a loser. Now you call me the only one who can save you." It had been 3 months since the courtroom fallout. I thought it would be quiet after that. Peaceful. A new beginning. I was wrong. At first, things were calm. I focused on Max. On building a real life. I set up a new college fund under lock and key, took him to Aikido, started reading with him every night. He laughed more. Slept better. The tension in his shoulders, the one I knew all too well from my own childhood, was gone. But ghosts have a way of clawing back. The first crack came from my mother. She called at 6 a.m. I saw her name flash across my screen and immediately knew something was wrong. I picked up. "Your father. He's in the hospital," she said, voice trembling. "Heart attack. They say he needs a procedure. We can't afford it. The court took too much. Please. He's asking for you. For Max." I said nothing. "He regrets it," she whispered. "Please. Just come see him." I hung up, and I didn't go. A week later, I received a letter. From my aunt, one of the few relatives who had stayed out of the mess. Inside was a clipping from the local newspaper. Longtime Councilman Richard Turner hospitalized after cardiac complications. Family now struggling financially after recent legal issues. Below was a GoFundMe link. Goal, $40,000. Raised, $3,200. Top comment, hope the son finds it in his heart to forgive. Donation from Emily Turner, $10. I hope he gets a second chance. As a father. As a grandfather. Pathetic. Days later, another call. Unknown number. My father. I didn't plan to answer. But curiosity? Or maybe closure? Made me swipe. "Hey, son." The voice was frail. Broken. "I don't sleep anymore. I think about it. About what I did to Max. The rock. The way I looked in his eyes, and I thought I was being funny. Turns out, I was being cruel. Just like I've always been." Silence. "I don't deserve forgiveness. But if you ever showed up, I'd know it's not over. That maybe I still have a chance." I took a breath. "Max made a custom phone case at school," I said. "It says, 'Only good boys get toys.'" "That's good," he said weakly. I asked him what it meant. He said, "It means bad grandpas don't have grandsons anymore." Click. I didn't call back. A week later, I found myself in the old neighborhood. The same strip mall where we'd once gathered for Max's infamous birthday prank. I saw them. My family. What was left of it? Dad in a wheelchair. Mom beside him. Emily handing out flyers. "Help Richard Turner. Family matters most." I watched from across the parking lot. Emily noticed me first. Her smile flickered. She jogged toward me. "You came. I knew you weren't as cold as you pretended." I said nothing. "We were wrong. All of us. But we're still family." "No," I said. "We were a cult where love was conditional and money was currency. And now the God you worshipped, status, control, image, has failed." She blinked, stunned. "This isn't about money. Then why does your flyer have a QR code and not an apology?" She flinched. I turned around and walked to the car. Max was in the passenger seat, watching. When Emily caught sight of him, she raised her hand to wave. He didn't wave back. Didn't even blink. Just looked at her like she was another stranger in the crowd. That was the moment I realized. Max had learned faster than I ever did. We drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Dad trying to stand, his hand reaching out like he could pull me back in time. But I was already gone. That night, Max and I sat in our tiny living room with popcorn and a movie. "Do you miss them?" I asked. He thought for a second. I miss who they could have been, he said. But I'm glad I've got you. I felt a lump in my throat. He rested his head on my shoulder. I put my arm around him and closed my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the disappointment. I wasn't the failure. I wasn't the loser. I was the dad who showed up. The one who said enough. The one who finally broke the cycle. I didn't lose my family. I built a new one.